So welcome to this video. I just quickly want to talk about some of the reasons why you might be having trouble with single target damage on your sort of shadow dot corpse explosion build, the infinimist build, as it is more popularly known. First of all, I just want to explain how this build works in essence. Essentially, on single targets, you generate corpses through hewed flesh, where your lucky hits have a chance to generate a corpse at the target's location. This is incredibly important. The more points you can get in this, the better. And then we have something like Corpse Explosion, which has an incredibly high lucky hit chance at 59%, almost 60% for me here. And that's simply because I've stacked so much lucky hit on all my gear. You can see I've got on both my rings, I've got my offhand, I've got, I think, gloves as well, I'm not sure. Wherever possible, I've got lucky hit. And when we take Corpse Explosion and make it into a dot, it still keeps that incredibly high lucky hit chance. That means every time our dots tick, every time Corpse Explosion ticks, there's a really high chance that we can trigger all our lucky hit effects. Here, X-Files Corroded Signet, really high base damage. I've only got a raw at 37,000k. I'd like to get it higher, but I can't be bothered to farm any more Helltide now. And whenever this procs, we deal a lot of burst damage. And on top of that, if we take a look in our Paragons, you can see we stack damage to close, shadow damage, and corpse skill damage wherever possible. And that just means that whenever our lucky hits trigger and we do shadow damage through X-Files Corroded Signet, all that damage is multiplied by our multiplicative and additive damage bonuses. As you can see here, damage with shadow, really important. Damage over time, really important for Corpse Explosion. We also want as many points into something like Corpse Explosion just to boost that base damage as much as possible. On top of that, we've also got our Shadow Blight, which is a really important key passive here for the build. It allows our shadow damage to crit essentially every now and then, and you can get some pretty high numbers on this, but I've invested more in like the base dot of Corpse Explosion. And also by using the Wither node here, when we stack intelligence, I'm currently trying to get to 1000, although I'm only about 900. The more intelligence you have, your dots essentially have a chance to crit. As you can see, 20% chance to deal 120%. 110% almost multiplicative damage. So stacking intelligence in all stats wherever possible is also a really good way to increase the damage of your dots. On top of that, as I already mentioned, we just want corpse skill damage. That's essentially just to boost the base damage of Corpse Explosion. And with my current setup, I'm easily able to solo all bosses, all in the game, easily able to do Uber Lilith, all that kind of thing, easily able to do Nightmare Dungeon 100. It is, however, worth mentioning that this build is much better at pushing Nightmare Dungeon 100 than it is at killing single target. This is not like a super optimized Bone Spear where you'll kill Lilith in 70 seconds. It's going to take a bit longer, but you'll be really safe and tanky while doing so, especially because if we take a look at some of the abilities, you want to use, again, Lucky Hit with Abhorrent Decrepify to reset the cooldowns for your abilities. You want to be at a point where when there's like more than 7 mobs, you're almost able to keep complete 100% uptime on Bone Storm. And looking at Vampiric powers, honestly, I haven't really given much of a shit about these. I've taken the cooldown reduction for our ultimates, super important, and I've taken the dot damage just for the raw DPS. The rest of them here, pretty random, to be honest. Although the vulnerable damage is nice. So yeah, I think that is pretty much all I've got to say. If you're having trouble killing bosses with this build, first of all, you're most likely missing X-Files Corroded Signet. It's incredibly important for this build. Without this item, your single target damage is a lot worse. It's definitely doable to do Obaduriel. I did him at like pretty damn low level. I think I was like 85 or something. It was fine. It took a long time though, but I was so tanky that he could never kill me. And eventually I got him down. But essentially it's all about the lucky hits triggering the cooldown resets to keep you in mist as much as possible and triggering all your lucky hit effects on your items as well. And on top of that, we've got shadow damage pretty much whenever we use an ability. That stacks a dot on the enemies as well, which again can lucky hit. We've got movement speed on the boots, ranks to corpse tendrils, again intelligence wherever possible. My pants are absolutely horrible, but again intelligence, ranks to corpse explosion. Gloves, pretty decent. Chest armor, just stacking damage reduction to keep alive, and aspect of disobedience. And we've got aspect of explosive mist. This is what allows the whole build to function. On the necklace, we've got blighted choker. Essentially on the necklace you want +3 all corpse skills, and I've got +3 amplifying damage passive, but the best in slot is probably something like the gloom passive, just for even more damage. And also I've got essence cost reduction. I'd much rather want something like, no, damage reduction from close, or some other offensive aspect, shadow damage maybe. I'm not sure if you could get that on a necklace, but the essence cost reduction is completely useless. On rings, we've got shadow damage, most important stat for the build, with Expel's Corroded Signet, and damage to close and lucky hit. These are the most important. Damage over time is only going to work with your corpse explosion and not Expels, and Expels is what's going to be doing the majority of your burst damage once you get this item. It's so important. I cannot understate how much damage this item does until you get this. I mean, you'll still be able to do fine, you just won't have the same burst potential. Anyways, I hope that explains why my, at least, infinimist build is doing pretty well on bosses, and that it explains what you could probably look into to sort of make your build better at single target as well. Cheers.